nice to eat. At least I enjoyed it very much. I really want to welcome you to this wonderful venue here at the Sydney Yacht Squadron. And as you know, coming from cold and frozen Europe, as some visitors here could second, it is really a pleasure being out here in the summer. And of course for me it was a very special occasion, because my last birthday that I celebrated in summer was exactly 40 years ago. And since then it was only winter birthdays, which are not really that much fun. And since we left on Tuesday night, our plane in Zurich had to be de-iced before they let us escape, because it was snowing as we were leaving Zurich. But then we had, of course, a lovely time in Bangkok. And would you believe, on the flight from Bangkok yesterday, Vanessa and Katrin were producing all these lovely stars that you have in the
We want less.
Well done, girls.
And I wanted to thank particularly Birgit, Katrin and Vanessa for all the thought they put into this event today. Because it was actually Birgit who started pushing me, you know, you've got to be 70 in a year from now. You've got to do something about it.
Because she's so young.
What are you going to do? What do you plan to do? And I said, I have no idea. I normally don't celebrate my birthdays. And thinking that I should really, I'm being pushed to think about something. So I thought, well, the best way I could think of is birthday in summer, and where better place to go. So she said, but if we do it in Sydney, I want to have a place where we can see water. So
that's right.
you see water. You even saw not an Oriana ship, and not, but we saw a Costa ship going by. It didn't hit the rocks here. So anyway, and thanks to Colin, who is a member of this wonderful facility here, and who made it possible that we could celebrate here. Same as Janine was celebrating here her birthday a few years ago, which actually gave me the idea. And so I thought it's really a wonderful way in getting all the friends from 40 years ago back together. And the other day I was looking at my office, and there is a cupboard somewhere, and out of that cupboard I picked up this.
That's like dangerous. It'll sell to anybody for 100,000.
You know, I used to get these calendars from my mom, and she gave the first one to me, and I have another one which is not 73 but 1968, which was my last year in South Africa. So 73 is my last year in Australia, and so I was going through, and at that time I was still writing things what I was doing sort of per day, not every day, but for example, it says here on the 1st of January 1973 until 2 a.m. New Year's party with Wendy in Newport. And then it says I was
good back to school.
and then we were going to Balmoral Beach with Ian and Louise and Jill Garland. And then I go back further, and then there was there was Australia Day. We were going to Bondi Beach. You may know that I had special relations with a German container ship at the time. The Sydney Express, and if some of you are interested, I digitalized some of my old movies from that time, and there was also a film about the Sydney Express. Anyway, it arrived here on Tuesday, on Monday the 29th, with their crew, and we developed quite a relationship with the crew. Captain Scharnbeck, and of course Pat was working with the agency managing Hapag-Lloyd ships and quite a few other ships. So, and sadly, Captain Scharnbeck passed away last year at the age well over 90. He was one of the leading captains of Hapag-Lloyd, which is the major German shipping company. And so I had quite a few things. But then in February, well, I also did some glider flying there. And then on the 6th of February, it says here, departure from Rose Bay with the Sunderland flying boat going to Lord Howe Island, where Shirley actually originally comes from. And whom do I meet at the jetty in Lord Howe Island?
Jim Fox.
Jim Fox, and it says here, and I met Jim Fox and Colin and Judy Cross, who had just spent 2 weeks at Lord Howe Island. Do you remember that?
I do.
In '73?
Not 73, but I remember this.
It was, yeah, you were there, but this is coming to '73, so you were there.
Whether you like it or not.
And I was living at the time with Mabel and Jim Brown. You know, Jim Brown was a leading nature conservationist in New South Wales. He was also an Olympic judge for gymnastics, and he was telling me how he was attending several of the Olympic Games as an Olympic judge. And he was at that time, I don't know how old he was, also probably my age now. But he could still stand on his head, and he was a tremendous athlete, which I'm not. So we had some lovely times here, snorkeling and scuba diving and doing movies, and I digitalized some of the movies that I done in Lord Howe Island and I done through the times around here. There were even 2 rainy days in Lord Howe Island during those 2 weeks I was there. Well, you know, if you don't write speeches, you have to read calendars. Anyway, it was almost 2 weeks that I spent here, and it was a fantastic time. I was back here, and I went glider flying to Camden, and I was invited to the German consulate on the 26th of February. Because the sporting club from Berlin was here, and as you may remember, I was a freelance journalist at the time, so I was writing some news stories, and I'm doing some correspondence report for Stuttgart radio station at the time. Bringing me back to radio, you remember there was a station called 2KY in Sydney?
Yes.
And you know, they were very famous for doing the dogs races.
That's on Tiger Black.
And Tiger Black, exactly. And I had a show on 2KY for about almost a year about European music and talking about photography and stuff like this, because at that time I was working for RSYS, and they actually sponsored the program. Otherwise I wouldn't have had a chance, but it was good fun. I was working at the duty-free shop at Sydney Airport, I see here. And one day on the 9th of March, I went to the theatre.
We're going to go through the whole year.
Just, you know, we are already at the 9th of March. And I was leading up to the beginning of April.
Give a lesson.
But do you remember a guy called Robert Morley?
Yes. The Englishman.
I did see him in How the Other Heart Loves, it says here, and I went there with Jill, Rosalind, Joe Hemlett, who is not here, John, and some other people, and Ian and Louise, yes. And then I had my first solo flight on the 10th of March, and no, the first solo flight? No, I had a few other solo flights before, but I got my passenger license a couple of days later, and I think Jill was my first passenger.
I was one of your passengers.
And so my passenger pilot's career only lasted 3 weeks. Then I was leaving the country. Maybe the flying was too dangerous. They didn't want to have me here. I was having, on the 15th of March, I had a couple of days in Canberra, which was nice. And and then I heard some people wanted to organize a farewell party for me. Because coming up towards the end of March, we were thinking of, doing all the final things that I had to leave here. Or not I had to leave, but I wanted to go back to Europe. The trouble with Australia is it's very nice. I loved it, but it was too bloody far away. And I thought, you know, I need to go back to, well, not the ZEISS company because they stopped making cameras at the time. But I was looking for the party on which day it was. It was at Wendy's house in Balmain, and they even made a special cake. I still have a picture of the cake with Wendy, Janine, and some other people saying farewell to Klaus, and I was very touched with that. And then finally, on Monday the 2nd, I went to the office in Chippendale with all my gear and still had to do a few things, and then they dropped me at the bus station of the Greyhound buses, and at the Ansett Air Pioneer bus terminal. And there were Sarah Hodson, Jill Garland, and Jochen Hemlet, who was the German friend who I stayed with in the first few weeks when I was here. And then at 3 p.m. I hit the road up to Brisbane. The departure was a couple of days late because there was big flooding in Queensland somewhere. So the idea was to travel all across Australia to Darwin. That plan was foiled because of the floods. So I had to fly part of the way. But anyway, I got to Darwin eventually and then went over to Timor, and it describes all here. The Timor at that time was still under Portuguese rule. And I ended up in Jakarta eventually. We went to, what's the lovely holiday? Bali, of course, yeah, Java, by train up to Bandung, across the hills over to Jakarta, through the tea plantations and so on up to Singapore. Then the train up to Bangkok, and of course we just spent a couple of lovely days in Bangkok, and in actual fact we drove past the station and they said, oh, there's the station, so that's the place where I arrived nearly 40 years ago in Bangkok for the first time. And of course for Katrin, Birgit and Vanessa it was all new. So at least now they also have one-day experience in Bangkok. But we went to the floating market. We saw all the activities there. Vanessa and Katrin went riding on an elephant, which was quite exciting. I took some pictures, of course, movies. What I couldn't take a picture of, we bought one because their elephant was in water and they almost got wet feet. But it was really very nice. Anyhow, I think that's the end of all the episodes, and it was lovely that you all came here and that we have this lovely afternoon together until 4 p.m. and then they throw us out. But maybe we can still have some drinks if you feel like staying a couple of minutes longer out in the grass. So we closed 1973. We entered 2013. That's, you know, it's still 12, but I thought since it's very close. So thank you very much for being here. I'm absolutely delighted. Thank you, Birgit, for supporting me all those years so much. It's really fantastic. And, and of course, Janine and John always said, you must bring Birgit here. So it took me over 20 years to bring her here for the first time. We are all back now together, and I think it's fantastic, and that you join us here is great. So all the best, and Merry Christmas and Merry Christmas. Colin, thank you very much.
Oh, you are smart, aren't you?
Zum Wohl.
I just want to say, no trouble whatsoever to book everybody in here today.